Alright, so in this video I'm going to be showing you how to do tube setting and show you how it might be one of the most easy settings that you can do if you have the right tools. So let's get started. Alright, so let me start off by explaining what tube setting even is. So it's very self-explanatory. It's literally you setting a stone into a tube. That's it. So for instance, I have this piece of silver tubing, which is about 2 millimeters. I also have some diamond cut stones that are about 1.7 to 1.6, depending on which stone it is, millimeters around. And then a setting burr that is 1.7 millimeters. So for the most part, all you need to really do is take the setting burr, put it inside of the tube, and make the proper shape, and then you're good to go to put your stone in. That being said, what are all these other tools? So these are tube cutters, and they allow you to do a couple things. So these two right here will let you cut certain lengths, but this one will actually let you cut different angles. So if you want to be completely flat, or you can go all the way up to a 45-degree angle, which comes in really handy for different work. You can also use a miter vise like this that has different angles to it also. And you can cut this down and clean up the edges with this. Also, these are really handy for rings. So you might also notice this. It's an old soldering pick that I put some sticky wax on the end of. So you can pick up your stones really easily because those stones are super tiny and trying to grab them with your hands or even tweezers can basically shoot them across the room. And this will allow you to just touch them and pick them up like this. And this is one of the most important tools to make this as easy as possible. If you have nothing else, get one of these to do tube setting. They come in different sizes, and this is basically just a setting punch. And as you can see at the tip of it, it's just a little cup in there that you put around the tube setting and just hit it with a small hammer, and there you go. You've set your stone for the most part. So let me show you how to actually do this. Alright, so I'm just going to put these basic pieces together. It's just a circular disc. One side of it is just normal, and the other side has a pattern in it. A little bail that I like to make that is a bent jump ring, and the tube setting. And I'm going to cut this down to actually set everything into it, and it's going to be 3 millimeters tall. All of this has already been measured out, so there's a 2 millimeter difference between these two, so this 2 millimeter tubing will fit between them and make it a full circle. So let's go cut this. Alright, when getting the tube, it usually has a burr, or this will be completely covered, or it's cut at an angle because it wasn't cut perfectly. But if you clean it all up, it'll be perfectly flat and it'll be ready for your tube setting. So I'm just going to use this, make sure it's completely just closed. So I'm just cutting off basically the end of this and just set it in place. You can see that it holds it in place just with this little lever, and you just hold it down like that. So to actually cut this, you need a saw. So I like to use my anvil and bench pen setup for this because it fits perfectly up against it here and holds it nice and sturdy. So you just line up your saw blade into the hole down here and go through it. So there we go, both sides are ready to be used and are completely flat now. And this is what was cut off, just that tiny little bit. So just as a side note, do not use these to cut tube. You will crush the tube and there's no way to make it come out nice. So don't use any type of cutting tools that are scissored like these. It'll just mess everything up. You pretty much have to saw through it. And like I was saying, if you don't have one of these and you do have one of these, you can just put this into it. So you can put it on like that and make sure that it's sticking out just a little bit, and you can file it down to be 100% smooth. I'm going to cut them to 3 millimeters, and you can use this to mark it, or you can use this tool and just space this out to 3 millimeters. So there we go. It has its 3 millimeter gap now, and all you need to do is put the tube into it and start cutting. Alright, so there we go. I have all my pieces now, but I need to solder this together. And to do so, I'm going to solder the tubes to the two flat pieces of the half circle, and then once those are all soldered on, then attach my bezel afterwards, just so I can keep everything as flat as possible when soldering.
From places I've never been, in colors I've never seen, colors that I've never seen. 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 Is this what I was hoping for? Was hoping for. Was hoping for. To live by my uncertainty principles.
All right, so there it is, all cleaned up from the pickling solution. You can clean this up using polishing stuff now if you want. I'm going to throw it into a tumbler to work harden it, but you don't have to do that. But I highly suggest doing so. And you can find out more about tumblers and stuff like that up here. All right, so let's get this out of here. So that was way too much soap, but here is our piece, all nice and shiny now. And work hardened, the most important part of this whole thing. So let's get to the actual point of this video and set these. And clean up my giant mess. Yeah, just a quick thing. Using a tumbler, don't use too much soap or that happens. Alright, so to do the settings in the tube settings, you do not need what I'm about to show you to make these work, but it makes it so much easier. And you can do it on the cheap, but let me show you. So, you can use an engraving ball like this that has a basically plastic that you can heat up and melt to push your work into. Or if you don't want to get one of these, if you have a bench vise, you can use this too, because you don't really need to be moving it around. And for the plastic in here, you can get something called thermal lock, which is pretty expensive. Or you can get some of this, which is from Polyplastics, and it's moldable plastic pellets. And you just put these in hot water, they will melt, and then you can form it. And then after they're formed into the shape that you need, you can heat it up with a torch and just push your piece in, and it's good to go. And it's so much cheaper doing it this way than buying the stuff that's actually meant for this. So I'm going to not use this one because obviously this is already set up. And honestly, you could just take that plastic and just put it onto like your bench pin or anvil and use it here too. So just something that's a hard surface, because we are going to be hammering, and it's easy to use that material because it's moldable. So you can see I sunk this into the hot plastic, and once it cools down, it will harden. And this is one of the easier ways to do your settings to keep it in place and so you don't bend things. So this does take a little bit of time to cool down, and you do not want to start using it when it's pliable whatsoever, because as soon as you start pressing on it, it will start sinking into it. So just wait for this to cool down. All right, I'm going to use a setting burr now. So make sure you use cut lube with this to keep these as sharp as possible, as long as possible. All right, so you want it to line up as straight as possible with the tube, and then you can spin it up. So that's pretty much it. You just need to make sure that the point goes in and then it flattens out the sides. So you can test it by just trying to put a stone into it. You can see that this is not set in there 100% perfect yet. It needs to go a little bit more, so we just take it out. and then just open it up a little bit more. So there we go. It has a nice little lip over the top of it. So when we use our actual setting piece, it will be able to fold over it and keep it in place. So here's a better view of the stone, and you can see that it has little walls or an edge around it now, that it's sunk into the tube, and that's what we're looking for. I would get a closer video, but my macro lens broke during making this video, and I can't get any closer than this now, so I hope you can see it. So now I just need to do the other two, and then we can start setting everything. Alright, so now we're going to use the setting punch. Just line this up directly on top of them. And just lightly tap it. So that's pretty much it. You don't have to hammer it. You can get one of these that has a hand piece for it and just kind of wiggle them around. You can even use this one like that, obviously. And it will set them in place also. So if you have a very delicate piece and you don't want to hammer it, this will also set everything in place. So now I need to get this out because it is completely stuck in here. So I'm just going to use a torch and lightly heat this and pull it right out. So it's pretty simple for the most part. You just want to get that setting burr to basically sit down into your tube as straight as possible. And once you do that, fold over the edges and you'll end up with tube settings, and they should never fall out. You can also, once you finish them, clean up the back of them so light can come through. Just make sure that your tube is big enough for your stone, and we'll have enough area there for you to actually cut it out. Alright, so that's about it for this video. If you have any questions, leave a comment. If you like the video, leave a like. And if you need any of the tools shown in this video, there will be links in the description. There you can find some stuff over here that you might also like, and down here. That being said, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!